And now to talk about Bitcoin mining in the UAE, we are happy to have with us Mr. Bijan Alizadeh, co-founder and group CEO at Phoenix Group. Hello, Mr. Bijan. Thank you so much for joining us at Crypto Weekly. And today we're discussing Bitcoin mining in the UAE. And I would like to start with the question of how do you think Bitcoin mining in the UAE is different than other regions in the world?
Absolutely. First of all, I'm mesmerized to be here. You know, being in this journey for the past 10 years, I remember the time that nobody wanted to talk about crypto. And now we are in a crypto show. And this is actually amazing, you know, for education of people. To answer your question, where we are in UAE, we started Bitcoin mining in UAE around 3 years ago. Again, that was something that a lot of people were skeptical in the beginning, but we built one of the biggest hydro sites in the world, which uses water technology to cool itself. It's one of the biggest in the region and in the world. And as we go on, we are trying to expand in the region.
Maybe can you share more, Bijan? Like, what is the outsized role the UAE plays when it comes to crypto mining? Do you have any data on what percentage of a hash rate is coming from the region? And also the source of electricity that is being used, which is obviously a big component in the cost of Bitcoin mining. Where does that come from when it comes to UAE mining? Absolutely.
About the data, you know, to give you exact data, it would be not correct, but right now where we sit is around 4% of the hash rate of the world is producing from the region. But that number is subject to changes on a daily basis as the hash rate index changes. In sort of the energy, as you know, in UAE in general, we are moving to green, as His Excellency Dr. Jaber explained in COP28. By 2050, we want to be net zero carbon, but the grid is moving towards solar and nuclear. And right now, we are using some sort of the grid energy from the past and some of the renewable energy. But hopefully, this changes as we go forward.
So when we read the news about Bitcoin miners, cost is a really big issue because it even drove their profit margins lower. So how do you deal with cost structures here in the UAE? I mean, to what extent is the cost structure for a Bitcoin miner in the UAE different than other regions in the world?
So in general, what we are seeing is in the next 5 years is the race to secure energy. And that energy, if it's from a renewable, it's going to be much more long-lasting. So right now, most of the big companies, either in data center or Bitcoin mining, what we are moving toward is signing up as many of PPA, purchase power agreements, as we can. Because what we believe is where we are right now in data centers or even in Bitcoin mining, it's like where we were 5 years ago in crypto. It's the tip of the iceberg. Yes, everybody is talking about it. There is so much hype and buzz, but the usage is not that much. But this usage is growing up significantly and it's going to ramp up. And that's why we believe the race to the energy is where we want to be. We want to basically secure as much power as we can because we believe it will be a very scarce commodity very soon.
And when it comes to the race of energy, it's very interesting because you're right, there's obviously Bitcoin mining, but there's also all the ALMs that consume large amounts of electricity. How do you see that future electricity consumption be? Will it be majority renewables, or do you believe it will be or could it also be a national matter of priority, strategic priority for many countries that have the energy because it's going to be so useful for fields like AI?
I think it's a fantastic question. I believe, you know, a lot of people say us as data centers or Bitcoin miners, we need renewable energy or we need them. I think they need us more because renewable energy, it's a very basically low ROI business. But once you include that and mix it with data centers, it becomes a very attractive proposition. So now what's happening, you see all around the world, the amount of renewable energy is increasing.
So just to follow up on Henry's question here. So we're seeing two main trends when it comes to Bitcoin mining. The first one is renewables, and what does it mean for this sector? The second one is AI. We're seeing AI disrupting all different kind of industries. When you look at AI component and you put it in with data centers that has, the capabilities of Bitcoin mining, to what extent does it reduce or actually increase the efficiency of Bitcoin mining? What role does it play?
I mean, to be honest, it's not very significant because the devices that we use is different, but the basic infrastructure that we use is the same. That the AI gives the Bitcoin mining companies the ability to change. In the times that Bitcoin mining gets tough, you can move toward AI. Today, in the world, 7% of the world, they have cryptocurrency wallets only. Yeah. That's it. 93%, they don't know. Programs like this increase that, and that's the key, the adoption.
A lot of Bitcoin miners had some difficulty. For example, a lot of them had extra leverage. There was always a debate, you go light infrastructure, you go hard infrastructure. Absolutely. With everything you just mentioned, Bijan, with the role that LLMs and AI will play in the future, how do you see the miner of the future, the Bitcoin miner or the player of the future? How would it look like?
The industry is going through a maturity phase. That's what I call it, right? The small miners are consolidating, the small Bitcoin miners are consolidating. And before, we used to say a Bitcoin miner have to make 60-70% a year in return. I think as the business is getting mature, we are going to a phase that you are seeing like normal businesses 20% a year, 25% a year. And that requires the smaller companies join together to form alliances, JVs, to make bigger companies, like the mergers that happens in all industries. Essentially, as a Bitcoin miner company, we are naturally long Bitcoin. That's what we believe.
Yes, of course.
So as long as we can hold Bitcoin in our balance sheet and we sell that Bitcoin at a higher price, we're still going to book profits. But again, as you mentioned, it's a challenge how long you can last during the winter times.
When it comes to that Bitcoin mining component, how do you see the machines evolve? And are you quite surprised of how many terahash rates that we have per second right now with what we're seeing?
I mean, it's like any other tech company. This is the other challenge the Bitcoin miners have. The technology is evolving so fast to accommodate this adoption, right? When I started Bitcoin mining back in 2013, we were using 14 nanometer chips. Today, the latest machines are 3 nanometer chips. So it's the same chip that you use in your iPhone XYZ. So the technology is evolving so fast. So the other challenges the Bitcoin miners have, they have to have the ability to adapt very fast.
And I think this is a very important message to investors. I mean, Phoenix Group is a listed company in Abu Dhabi Stock Exchange. And I want to come back to you after the break, Bijan, and we talk about profit drivers of a Bitcoin miner. And to what extent is it important for an investor to understand what drives the profit of a Bitcoin mining company before investing in such company? This is coming right after our break.
Welcome back to Crypto Weekly. We're here with Mr. Bijan Alizadeh, the Group CEO of Phoenix Group. Bijan, before we move on, I want to ask a question that we ask our listeners at home on X this week. Very interesting question on their views on whether banks and asset managers should offer more products like Bitcoin and ETF products to their customers. And very interesting answers that we got there from a lot of listeners.
I hope I can change it more toward the yes, because I'm absolutely a yes on this. I think the banks definitely should provide this. I'm very happy to announce that M2, as a Emirati-born exchange, crypto exchange, now partner up with one of the major banks in UAE. So now the clients can essentially have access to 50 different type of crypto product within a click. So the banks are going to that position, I think. Bitcoin is an alternative asset class in my mind. So I believe in the next 10 years, even traditional people will call their banks and say, can you buy me some bonds? Can you buy me some mutual funds? But also, can you buy me some gold, some silver, and some Bitcoin? Because what is going to protect you from the financial crisis is a safe haven asset. And I believe Bitcoin provides that.
Kind of a diversifier. Anyways, we're going to discuss this also. But before that, I think what is really important is to discuss Bitcoin mining as a company that is publicly listed. Phoenix is a publicly listed company. And I think that the issue is many investors don't really have a deep understanding of the profit drivers of a Bitcoin mining company. So can you tell us a little bit about that? And what message would you give to investing in a Bitcoin mining company? To what extent do you think that it's important to understand the profit drivers?
Absolutely. You know, the Bitcoin mining, as it looks very easy from outside, it has its own challenges. Some of it we mentioned already, like the adoption to technology, the power price, and now the way the world is going, you need bigger companies to go negotiate bigger contracts to get a better rates. And that's essentially what happened to us after listing. You know, after listing, now we have the ability to go sit down with governments and negotiate power contracts with them with the better rates. I think that is the key success driver of Phoenix. The other one is there are different parameters on each stock exchange of how the companies get valued. For example, when you go to NASDAQ, you need growth. You need to constantly show growth. So for that, you go sign any contract you can. But in Abu Dhabi Exchange, what we have is everything measures based on net profit. The other one is, I believe, us as an expert in this field showed as top 5 company in the world. I think we showed to the investors that rather than go to this gruesome experience themselves, they can trust us to do this, and they just invest in our shares.
How has it changed running a company pre-public and after being public? Does it change a lot your management style, the way you guys deal? Obviously, you mentioned some of the benefits you have with counterparties.
The time you sleep.
I mean, it's an interesting experience. Having said that, I believe what has been changed essentially, what we learned is we need to work on education a lot. We need to educate the investors, because a lot of investors in Abu Dhabi Exchange are traditional investors. They are not aware of what we do. As a first company in Middle East to get listed in blockchain, it was an experience for itself. But what we are happy is we start a road for a lot of other companies to come and get listed. And I personally know that 4 or 5 other companies are moving to UAE to get listed, because here the situation is much more easier. The regulatory framework is there. There is a very good tax regime. All of this help companies to grow much faster.
And I think that also has to do with regulations, because you are in a country that is very feasibly regulated, which also is really positive for investors.
Absolutely. You know, if you look at it between FSRA and WARA, FSRA in Abu Dhabi, in ADGM, and WARA in Dubai, we have a fantastic regulatory framework. You know, this has changed UAE dramatically position in Web3. You know, now UAE, in my mind, is a top 3 destination for any Web3 company. If you consider Singapore, Miami, and now UAE is essentially top 3. And people really like to move here, you know, and the government with a lot of incentives, like if you are a Web3 developer, if you have a good income, you get a golden visa. Where else in the world you can get this, right? It's a heaven for Web3 developers to come here, work from here. And I think that's why we see more. And the other fact that I want to mention is UAE has shown itself as always the first, right? A lot of people don't know, and I like the audience to know that UAE had a minister of AI from 2016.
Yeah,
now
right before anybody else.
Anybody else, right? So, and the regulation around digital asset started 4 years ago. It's 4 years into making where we are today. So I believe the leadership has a clear vision about digitalization, and that's what put this country ahead of everybody else in the next 5 years.
And I wanted to ask you about exactly this point of the ecosystem. You mentioned all the influx of entrepreneurs coming in the UAE for crypto companies. Outside of the regulatory framework, let's say for other miners to come, or other companies to come, what do you think is essential?
having a headquarters here is going to help a lot of people because of the tax regime and regulatory framework. If I tell you the regulatory framework is perfect, it's always things needs improvement, right? Yeah. It's an improvement in the process. And that's all of us, we are contributing toward that. We always, the good thing about regulators in UAE is they always listen to the counterparties. And that's what makes this country perfect.
Good message to many other regulators around the world. Maybe to finish it off, Bijan, a personal question in 30 seconds. I heard that you're publishing a new book soon on the 101 mistakes that you've done as a crypto investor.
Yeah.
Maybe to our audience, what is the 1 or 2 main ones that you actually believe we should share?
I mean, a lot of mistakes. I think back in 2016 when the crash happened, I panicked and I sold everything that I had. I think that was the biggest mistake.
You regret it until today.
Yeah, I can never forget. And the other one is investing without due diligence. I invested in companies like FTX because of the hype, and I didn't do a complete due diligence, and all of us know what happened to that.
So do a very good due diligence. This is number 1. And 2, do not react to news spontaneously. Look at in the investment as a long-term investment.
Yes.
These are the 2 lessons.
If somebody comes to you and says you something that is too good to be true, it's
then
usually
it's
not
too good to be true.
Wise words there, wise words.
Thank you so much. We wish you the best of luck with everything that you do. And welcome to Crypto Weekly. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Bijan Alizadeh, co-founder and group CEO at Phoenix Group. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.